In 2024, Kamala Harris set out on a campaign that promised to change American politics. We're talking soaring speeches, viral memes, and enough plot twists to make Aaron Sorkin blush. But like any good story, there were also moments of heartbreak, strategic blunders, and enough awkward encounters to fill a season of Veep. So folks, we're about to take a deep dive into the 10 unforgettable events that defined Kamala Harris's bid for the presidency. Picture this. Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance had the entire Democratic Party holding their breath. Then boom, Biden steps down and endorses Kamala Harris faster than you can say campaign shake-up. The Democratic establishment quickly fell in line and Harris was in the spotlight, ready or not. Cut to playful sound effect of people gasping talk about a plot twist. Imagine being handed the keys to a Ferrari while everyone watches. Enter Charlie XCX with the tweet heard around the world, "Kamala is brat." It became a viral sensation overnight. Suddenly, Harris was that girl, messy, relatable, and just a tad dramatic. But as election day approached, the memes faded, replaced by the relentless grind of real politics. The Democratic National Convention, initially set as Biden's victory lap, evolved into a grand celebration for Harris. Picture confetti cannons, standing ovations, and joy being the word of the night. The atmosphere was electric. You could almost see the poll numbers climbing. The epic debate with Trump. Debating Trump is like playing chess with a pigeon. No matter how strategically you move your pieces, he's just going to knock them over, poop on the board, and strut around like he won. But this time, folks, this time was different. Kamala Harris, the seasoned prosecutor, the queen of side-eye, wasn't about to let Trump turn the debate stage into his personal Twitter feed. She came prepared. She came to play. She came to eviscerate. From the moment she stepped on stage, cool, calm, and collected in a power suit that could cut diamonds, you could tell Trump was thrown. This wasn't Biden he was dealing with. This was a force of nature, a woman who could dismantle your arguments with a single, perfectly timed eyebrow raise. Distance from Uncle Joe. Now, I'm not saying there's bad blood between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. In fact, I'm sure they exchange pleasantries at those fancy DC cocktail parties where everyone pretends to like each other. But on the campaign trail, let's just say they maintained a safe social distance. It's not hard to see why. Remember that whole Biden bombshell that kicked off this whole shebang? Yeah, well, it turns out handing someone the keys to the kingdom after a very public meltdown can lead to some, shall we say, mixed emotions. Plus, let's be honest, Biden's gaffes were legendary. So Kamala did what any savvy politician would do. She kept her distance. She smiled politely for the cameras, offered the occasional word of praise, but for the most part, she ran her own race. She knew that aligning too closely with Biden could be a double-edged sword. While his experience was invaluable, his controversies were a liability. Kamala had to carve out her own identity, separate from the shadow of Uncle Joe. She needed to be seen as a leader in her own right. And so she focused on her own initiatives, her own policies, and her own vision for the future. It was a calculated move, and a smart one at that. Tim Walz, the good, the bad, and the weird. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, the man who once called Republicans weird, and the guy who, for a brief, shining moment, was the Robin to Kamala's Batman, or maybe the other way around. He was the campaign trail sidekick everyone rooted for, the guy who could deliver a folksy anecdote and a dad joke with equal aplomb. Early on, Walz was a rock star. He crisscrossed the country, charming voters with his Midwestern charm and his ability to explain complex policy issues in a way that didn't make your head spin. But as the campaign wore on, as the stakes grew higher and the spotlight brighter, Walz seemed to, well, fade into the background. Whatever the reason, Walz's star began to dim. Politics, my friends, is a game of addition. And in 2024, Kamala Harris decided to roll the dice on a risky strategy wooing disaffected Republicans. To lead the charge, she teamed up with the unlikeliest of allies, Liz Cheney. Yes, Liz Cheney. Together, they embarked on a cross-country charm offensive, preaching the gospel of common sense, bipartisanship, and the importance of not letting a reality TV star-turned-aspiring dictator destroy American democracy. It was a bold move, a gamble that could either pay off big time or blow up in their faces like a poorly timed firework. Now, I know what you're thinking. Women's issues? Really? In a presidential election? That's like talking about the weather. Everyone cares, but no one wants to do anything about it. It's a topic that's always there, but often ignored when it comes to real action. But folks, this wasn't your grandma's women's movement, although I'm sure your grandma was very supportive. This was a new era, a new fight, with new faces and renewed energy. This was 2024, a year that saw the Supreme Court, stacked with more conservatives than a country club brunch, overturn Roe v. Wade with all the grace of a bull in a china shop. It was a seismic shift that shook the nation to its core. Suddenly, women's rights weren't just a talking point, they were a rallying cry. The streets were filled with voices demanding change, and the energy was palpable. Kamala Harris, a woman who knew a thing or two about breaking glass ceilings, seized the moment. She became a beacon of hope and a symbol of resilience. She crisscrossed the country, speaking to packed town halls, college campuses, and even a few bowling alleys, because why not? Reminding women that their rights were under attack and that their votes were their voices. Her message was clear and urgent. The campaign ads were even more powerful. They struck a chord with viewers, resonating deeply with their personal experiences and fears. Gone were the platitudes and the vague promises. In their place were bold statements and clear commitments to action, leaving no room for doubt about where the candidate stood. Now, some people might say that giving a major campaign speech at the site of a failed insurrection is a bit on the nose, but Kamala Harris, bless her bold little heart, has never been one to shy away from a challenge. So, there she stood, on the very ground where a mob of angry Trump supporters had stormed the Capitol just 2 years earlier, her voice echoing across the National Mall, a beacon of hope in a city still haunted by the ghosts of January 6th. The message was simple, powerful, and impossible to ignore. Democracy is fragile, folks. It's not something you inherit like a trust fund or a set of antique china. It's something you have to fight for, protect, and nurture every single day. Now, I'm not saying that appearing on Saturday Night Live is a guaranteed path to the White House, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have a little comedic flair and a national platform to showcase it. SNL has a certain cultural cachet, a way of reaching voters who wouldn't be caught dead at a town hall meeting or watching C-SPAN in their free time. It's a unique blend of humor and politics that resonates with a broad audience, making it a powerful tool for any campaign. So, with just days to go before the election, Kamala Harris decided to end her campaign on a high note, with a surprise appearance on the show that's launched 1,000 political careers and ruined just as many. It was a bold move, but one that paid off in spades. And who better to welcome her to Studio 8H than Maya Rudolph, the woman who'd perfected the Kamala Harris impression so well that even Kamala herself had to be impressed and maybe a little terrified. The chemistry between the two was palpable, and the audience couldn't get enough. For a few glorious minutes, the political world faded away, and we were treated to a masterclass in comedic timing, good-natured ribbing, and the kind of self-deprecating humor that's all too rare in Washington these days. It was a refreshing break from the usual political rhetoric. It was the perfect palate cleanser after a long, bruising campaign. A moment of levity that reminded us all of the power of humor and the importance of not taking ourselves too seriously, even in the midst of a heated election. From unexpected endorsements to viral memes, debates that felt more like prize fights, and a final plea to voters that echoed across the National Mall, Kamala Harris's 2024 campaign had it all. It was a roller coaster of emotions, a political thriller that kept us on the edge of our seats until the very end. And while her journey to the White House may have ended in defeat, there's no doubt that Kamala Harris left an indelible mark on American politics. What legacy will she build next? Stay tuned, folks. Enjoyed the roller coaster ride of Kamala Harris's campaign? Hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more political deep dives and analysis.